Karma yoga is not just about performing actions. It's about flowing with life without the illusion of control. Imagine yourself as a wave in the vast ocean, rising and falling naturally, without claiming ownership of the movement. This is the essence of non-doership, allowing life to act through you without the interference of ego or personal will. The teachings of Lord Buddha and Ramana Maharshi emphasize that true action arises without attachment to the outcome, guided by the divine script of existence. When you grasp this, you realize that life is living you. You're not the independent actor you once believed. This shift transforms how you engage with the world, freeing you from the weight of responsibility and the craving for results. In Karma Yoga, the focus shifts from achieving goals to embracing the flow of action itself. It's not about forcing success or battling failure, but rather moving with the rhythm of the universe. Picture an artist completely immersed in their craft, lost in the creative process. That's the essence of action flow. It's not the mind pushing for perfection, but the soul expressing itself naturally. When we embrace non-doership, we transcend the ego-driven desire to control every outcome, and instead, we become instruments of divine power. This is how action becomes effortless and harmonious, leading to a state of bliss where pride and guilt lose their grip on us. Understanding Karma Yoga means recognizing that desires and fears often shape how we act, tying us to the circle of karma. By seeing ourselves as mere conduits of life's action, we break free from this cycle and experience a sense of liberation. Imagine how freeing it would be to act without the nagging fear of judgment or the crushing need for validation. When you practice non-doership, life's challenges no longer feel like personal attacks. They are simply waves in the ocean of experience. You stop taking credit or blame and start moving through life with a sense of inner peace and detachment. A practical way to integrate Karma Yoga into your daily life is through guided meditation. Set aside a few minutes each day to close your eyes and repeat the mantra, "I am being lived." Let this truth sink in as you breathe and observe the natural flow of your thoughts and sensations. You'll start to notice how life unfolds on its own, without your constant interference. By doing this regularly, you rewire your mindset to let go of personal doership, gradually aligning yourself with the natural flow of existence. The more you practice, the more you feel the burden of responsibility melt away. This approach doesn't mean giving up ambition or action. It means engaging with life from a place of surrender rather than force. You'll still pursue your goals, but without the tension of needing to be the master of every outcome. Imagine working on a project not from a place of stress, but from pure inspiration, allowing creativity to move through you. This is the art of living with grace, taking action while staying detached from the results. As you embrace this mindset, you'll find yourself more aligned with your divine destiny, acting not as an individual force, but as part of a grander, unified movement. Chapter 1. The Ego and Personal Doership. The ego is a cunning illusion that convinces us we are the architects of our actions. It's that persistent voice in your head telling you that you are the one achieving success, making mistakes, and owning every decision. But this sense of personal doership is the root of suffering. The belief that you are solely responsible for the outcomes of your actions traps you in a cycle of pride and guilt. Pride emerges when things go right, while guilt crushes you when they go wrong. The truth is, the ego feeds off this illusion of control, binding you to a never-ending loop of desire and fear. To truly break free, it's essential to see the ego for what it is, just a construct, not your essence. Imagine how liberating it would be to view your actions not as personal achievements or failures, but as expressions of the universe flowing through you. This mindset doesn't make you passive or indifferent. Instead, it aligns you with the natural course of life. Think of a musician lost in the melody, not forcing the notes, but allowing them to emerge. That's what non-doership feels like, a seamless integration with the flow of action. The ego despises this idea because it loses its sense of power. Yet, the more you resist claiming ownership, the lighter your spirit becomes, and the more harmonious your actions feel. The sense of personal doership leads to a distorted perception of reality, where your worth is tied to outcomes. Whether it's getting a promotion or facing a breakup, the ego makes it personal. But what if life is simply acting through you, using your form as a vessel? This realization doesn't absolve you of accountability, but it redefines it. You begin to see yourself as a wave in the ocean, inseparable from the whole, moving as life intends. This shift shatters the illusion of being a lone warrior fighting against the current. You're not an isolated actor, but an extension of divine power. Breaking the cycle of personal doership requires deliberate practice. Start by noticing when pride or guilt arises. Instead of identifying with these emotions, observe them as passing waves. Set reminders throughout your day with the mantra, "I'm being lived." Use it as a cue to step back from your habitual reactions. Whenever you catch yourself claiming credit or blame, pause and reflect. Is this truly mine, or is it just life unfolding through me? Over time, this practice dissolves the ego's grip, revealing a deeper sense of peace and clarity. As you loosen the hold of personal doership, life's challenges become less daunting. You stop blaming yourself for failures or excessively celebrating victories. Your sense of self shifts from a rigid identity to a fluid presence, grounded in the realization that life is guiding every step. This doesn't mean you stop taking action. Rather, your actions become more intuitive and less burdened by egoic expectations. You move from striving to flowing, from resistance to acceptance. It's a transformation that unites you with the essence of being, where even ambition becomes a gentle pursuit rather than a fierce battle. Chapter 2. Karma and Samsara. Karma is the invisible thread weaving through the tapestry of existence, guiding each soul through the endless cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, known as samsara. It's not just about cause and effect, but a complex dance of intention and consequence that spans lifetimes. Every action, every thought, and every desire leaves an imprint on your karmic path. Imagine a farmer planting seeds without knowing when they will sprout or how the harvest will turn out. Some seeds grow immediately, while others lie dormant for years. Karma works in much the same way, manifesting outcomes when conditions are ripe, regardless of how much time has passed. It's an intricate web where every movement reverberates across lifetimes. The belief that karma is punishment or reward is a misconception rooted in the ego's need to control outcomes. In truth, karma is neutral. It's life's natural response to action, flowing like a river shaped by the contours of your choices and intentions. Samsara, the endless cycle of birth and rebirth, emerges when the ego clings to desires and fears, binding the soul to the wheel of existence. The idea that your soul is an independent entity trapped in this cycle is just another illusion. In reality, you are both the wave and the ocean, constantly transforming but never truly separate from the whole. Realizing this dissolves the fear of reincarnation and liberates your spirit from the burden of personal responsibility. Understanding karma means accepting that your current circumstances are not random, but the outcome of countless past actions. It's not about blame or shame. It's about acknowledging the forces that shaped your journey without identifying personally with them. When life throws you into chaos, instead of asking, "Why me?" consider the possibility that this moment is a ripple from a long-forgotten choice. Let go of the need to trace every cause and instead focus on responding with wisdom and grace. By doing so, you step out of the cycle of reaction and into a state of mindful action, allowing karma to unfold without resistance. To truly break free from samsara, one must transcend the ego's desire to control and manipulate life's script. Engage in practices that foster detachment from personal outcomes, like guided meditations focused on non-doership, or the repetition of mantras like, "I am being lived." These practices gently untie the knots of karmic attachment, allowing you to act without claiming ownership of your deeds. Consider studying texts like the Book of Proverbs or teachings from Ramana Maharshi to deepen your understanding of surrender and divine destiny. The goal is not to erase karma, but to move through it without creating new karmic imprints born from pride or guilt. The true liberation from samsara comes not from fighting against karma, but from recognizing that your essence is untouched by it. You are the dreamer, not the dream, the force behind the manifestation, not the individual wave crashing on shore. Embrace your role as part of the grand movement of life, without succumbing to the illusion of personal doership. When you see life living itself through you, the circle of karma loses its grip, and you enter a state of profound peace and equanimity. This realization doesn't stop action, but transforms it into an expression of unity with the universe itself. Chapter 3. Conditioning and Circumstances. Conditioning is the invisible architect of our actions, shaping how we respond to life's challenges without us even realizing it. From childhood, we're molded by family beliefs, societal expectations, and personal experiences, crafting a unique lens through which we perceive the world. Imagine a sculptor chipping away at a block of marble, each strike shaping a form dictated by both intention and the material itself. Similarly, our actions are shaped by conditioning and circumstances that intertwine like threads in a vast tapestry. The ego, however, steps in to claim ownership, insisting that our choices are purely our own. This illusion of personal doership blinds us to the fact that much of what we do is a conditioned response rather than a free, independent action. It's easy to feel trapped when you realize how deeply conditioning influences your decisions. You might wonder if there's any real freedom at all. The truth is that freedom lies not in rejecting your conditioning, but in recognizing it without attachment. You see, the ego feeds on the illusion of independence, but life itself unfolds through countless variables beyond our control. Picture someone who lashes out when criticized, not because they choose to, but because their past wounds and conditioning ignite an automatic reaction. When you understand this, you no longer blame yourself or others for actions shaped by forces beyond conscious control. Instead, you observe, accept, and let go. Circumstances act as the stage on which conditioning plays out, shaping how each moment unfolds. Think of life as a grand script, where your character moves and reacts based on past experiences and the context of each scene. You might feel proud of your achievements or guilty about your mistakes, but are they truly yours? Or are they the inevitable unfolding of a script written by the universe? This understanding doesn't make you a passive spectator. Rather, it empowers you to act with awareness. Instead of getting lost in guilt or pride, you start seeing your role as part of the greater whole, where every action is an expression of life's force. To break free from the grip of conditioning, practice observing your reactions without identifying with them. For instance, when anger arises, instead of saying, "I am angry," notice the feeling as anger is happening. This subtle shift transforms your relationship with emotions, allowing you to witness them without being consumed. Set reminders throughout your day to pause and reflect on how much of your actions stem from conditioning rather than conscious choice. Journaling about these realizations can also help untangle the complex web of habits and responses that govern your life. The key is to observe without judgment and to recognize the deeper flow guiding your actions. As you delve deeper into this awareness, you begin to see conditioning as neither good nor bad. It simply is. Life flows through your conditioned form like water through a riverbed shaped by centuries of erosion. You're not separate from your past or your surroundings, but that doesn't mean you're doomed to repeat old patterns. By seeing through the illusion of independent action, you transcend the limitations of conditioning. You start living from a place of acceptance and fluidity, allowing the universe to move through you without resistance. This perspective opens the door to a profound sense of liberation, where actions arise naturally, without the ego's grip on identity or control. Chapter 4. The Illusion of Free Will. Free will is one of humanity's most cherished beliefs. The idea that we are the architects of our own destiny, making choices independent of any external force. Yet, when you look deeper, this perception crumbles like a house of cards. The notion of being an independent actor is rooted in the ego's desire to control. We take pride in our accomplishments and blame ourselves for failures, as if we alone had the power to shape outcomes. But life is not a solo performance. It's a grand orchestration where every note is predetermined by a vast network of causes and conditions. Your sense of free will is merely the mind interpreting a script that was written long before you even became aware of it. Imagine watching a movie where the characters believe they're making choices, unaware that their fate is sealed by the script. In the same way, our sense of freedom is an illusion crafted by the ego. When you decide to go left instead of right, is it truly your choice? Or is it the result of countless influences, from genetic predispositions to social conditioning? The idea of independent action collapses when you realize that every decision is shaped by an intricate web of prior causes. The universe unfolds through you, like a wave shaped by the pull of the ocean. Your will is part of a vast movement, not a separate force of its own. Embracing the illusion of free will doesn't mean giving up on life or surrendering to fate. It means recognizing that actions happen through you rather than by you. This realization shifts your perspective from being a struggling individual to being a conduit of life itself. Instead of obsessing over the consequences of your choices, you start to observe them unfolding naturally, without the burden of control. This shift opens up a profound sense of peace because you no longer cling to the illusion that you must mastermind every outcome. You begin to witness your own actions as part of a greater flow rather than the product of personal effort. To internalize this understanding, practice mindfulness throughout your day. Notice how thoughts arise without your conscious intent, and how actions follow in response to subtle impulses shaped by past experiences. Instead of labeling choices as right or wrong, observe them as part of the unfolding script of life. A practical way to reinforce this mindset is to set alarms reminding you to pause and reflect on how much of your day has flowed naturally versus how much you attempted to force. This practice will gradually dissolve the illusion of free will, allowing you to live with greater harmony and acceptance. The most powerful realization comes when you see that life is not demanding you to be in control. You are being lived by a force beyond your comprehension, moving through you effortlessly. The dreamer dreams, the wave rises and falls, and the action flows without the strain of personal doership. When you release the ego's grip on free will, you stop battling against life's currents and start riding the wave with grace. You become attuned to the flow state where bliss replaces resistance, and acceptance becomes your natural response. This awakening is not an end, but the beginning of living without conflict, where every moment is embraced as it is. Chapter 5. Pride, Guilt, and Karmic Attachments. Pride and guilt are two sides of the same karmic coin, both rooted in the illusion of personal doership. Pride swells when you feel solely responsible for your success, while guilt festers when you blame yourself for failures. These emotions are the footprints of karma, binding you to a cycle of attachment and suffering. They arise from the ego's desperate need to claim ownership over actions, fueling the illusion that you are the independent architect of your destiny. But if life itself is living through you, how can you truly take credit or blame? The attachment to pride and guilt keeps you stuck in samsara, constantly chasing validation or drowning in regret. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack filled with every mistake and triumph you've ever experienced. The weight slows you down, and yet you cling to it, convinced that it defines who you are. Letting go of pride and guilt doesn't mean disregarding your actions or ignoring consequences. Instead, it means recognizing that both success and failure are part of a larger, universal script. You are the wave, not the ocean itself. Detaching from pride and guilt allows you to move with the current, free from the burden of personal responsibility. This liberation breaks the cycle of karmic attachments and opens the door to spiritual growth. Desires and fears are the invisible threads weaving karmic patterns that repeat over lifetimes. When you desire something intensely, the energy of that craving sets karma in motion, creating attachments that linger long after the desire fades. Similarly, fear compels you to make choices rooted in avoidance rather than acceptance. These patterns become habits that shape your reincarnations, locking you into the endless wheel of samsara. Realizing this doesn't mean suppressing desires or denying fears. Instead, it means seeing them as transient forces passing through you, not permanent aspects of your identity. A powerful way to dissolve pride and guilt is through the practice of forgiveness, both of yourself and others. Forgiveness doesn't erase the past, but it releases the emotional charge that binds you to it. Imagine repeating the mantra, "I am being lived," while meditating on past experiences that haunt you. This practice helps you see those moments as part of life's unfolding, not as personal failures. The weight of guilt and pride dissolves when you realize that neither success nor error truly belongs to you. It's all part of the dreamer's script, manifesting through the vessel that is you. By loosening your grip on pride and guilt, you also break free from the illusion of personal success and failure. You start to see your accomplishments not as personal triumphs, but as manifestations of life's flow through you. This shift doesn't diminish your achievements or make you indifferent to your actions. Instead, it grounds you in a sense of humility and grace, knowing that life itself is the true force behind every outcome. When pride and guilt lose their power, you become more resilient, open to growth, and less fearful of change. You no longer measure your worth by the highs and lows, but by the steadiness of your presence within the unfolding story. Chapter 6. Transcending Personal Doership. Transcending personal doership is one of the most challenging yet liberating aspects of spiritual practice. The ego clings to the idea that it is the doer, the mastermind behind every thought, action, and result. This sense of personal control is deeply embedded, forming the very core of identity. Yet, holding on to this illusion only leads to suffering, as pride and guilt emerge from the belief that you are solely responsible for your successes and failures. The secret lies not in fighting this belief, but in seeing through it, recognizing that life is acting through you rather than you acting independently. The wave does not claim credit for its rise or blame for its fall. It simply moves as the ocean wills. Imagine driving a car on a winding road, gripping the wheel tightly, convinced that every turn is entirely up to you. But in reality, countless factors influence your movement: the road's slope, the car's mechanics, the weather, and the conditions around you. Realizing that your actions are guided by forces beyond your control doesn't make you a passive passenger. It makes you a mindful driver, aware that the road itself shapes your journey. Transcending personal doership is like relaxing your grip and allowing the car to move naturally within the flow of traffic, instead of battling every curve with resistance. One of the most powerful practices to break free from the illusion of doership is self-inquiry. Ask yourself, who is the doer? Who claims responsibility for these actions? As you investigate, you'll find that the sense of I dissolves into the awareness that life is simply unfolding through you. This practice doesn't detach you from reality, but deepens your presence, as you act without the weight of needing to prove yourself. By acknowledging that you are being lived rather than living on your own terms, you align with the effortless action flow that Karma Yoga teaches. Set reminders throughout your day to pause and reflect on this truth. I am being lived. Use moments of stress as cues to remember that life itself is orchestrating your actions. Whether you're in the middle of a heated conversation or making critical decisions at work, breathe deeply and let go of the urge to control. Allow the realization to permeate your mind that your role is not to direct every outcome, but to respond with awareness to what life presents. This practice fosters a state of non-resistance, where actions arise naturally, guided by the deeper current of existence. As you continue to transcend personal doership, you may feel lighter, more grounded, and less consumed by the need to succeed or the fear of failure. You'll notice that your decisions become less frantic and more intuitive, rooted in presence rather than pressure. This transformation doesn't mean that ambition or drive fades away. Rather, they become purified of ego, flowing from a place of genuine inspiration. Life becomes less about proving something to yourself or others, and more about harmonizing with the rhythm of existence. The process is ongoing, but each glimpse of non-doership deepens your sense of freedom and peace. Chapter 7. The Flow State and Bliss. The flow state is that sweet spot where action becomes effortless and you lose track of time. Not because you're disconnected, but because you're fully immersed. It's the sensation of being so engaged that your sense of self dissolves, and life moves through you like a river. This state of bliss is the epitome of non-doership, where the ego steps aside and allows the universe to act through you. Athletes call it being in the zone. Artists experience it when creativity pours out effortlessly, and spiritual practitioners recognize it as unity with the divine. It's the ultimate expression of being lived rather than living through personal will. Achieving the flow state is not about forcing yourself into it, but about creating the conditions where it naturally arises. The paradox is that the harder you try to enter flow, the more elusive it becomes. Instead, focus on removing resistance, surrender to the moment, and let go of the need to control. Think of a surfer riding a massive wave, balanced yet completely at the mercy of the ocean. There's no time to think or strategize, just pure presence and harmony. This is why practicing non-doership in everyday life primes you to access the flow state, as it dissolves the ego's grip and invites effortless action. Bliss in the flow state doesn't come from the outcome, but from the process itself. Whether you're composing music, writing, or simply going for a run, the joy arises not from reaching a goal, but from being completely absorbed in the act. The mind becomes quiet, and the usual chatter about success or failure fades away. It's as if the universe is using you as an instrument, playing a melody that you are both part of and witness to. This state of harmony is not just a mental trick, but a profound spiritual experience that echoes the teachings of karma yoga: action without personal doership. One practical way to cultivate flow is through mindfulness practices that anchor you in the present. Try focusing on repetitive, simple tasks like washing dishes or walking. Instead of rushing through, immerse yourself fully in the sensations, the feel of the water, the rhythm of your steps. You'll find that even mundane activities can become gateways to the flow state when performed without resistance. Set aside time to engage in creative pursuits without worrying about perfection or validation. The goal is to allow life to express itself through you, unimpeded by the ego's desire for control or recognition. The beauty of living in the flow state is that it transcends the duality of pleasure and pain. You no longer act with the hope of success or the fear of failure. Instead, your actions become harmonious extensions of the present moment, free from the burden of personal ambition. This doesn't mean abandoning your aspirations, but rather pursuing them from a place of grace rather than strain. When bliss becomes your baseline, challenges lose their sting, and triumphs feel less intoxicating. You're no longer caught in the cycle of highs and lows, but find a consistent, peaceful rhythm in the dance of life. Chapter 8: Forgiveness and Breaking the Cycle of Karma. Forgiveness is not just an act of kindness towards others. It's an act of liberation for yourself. Holding on to grudges and regrets ties you to the very karmic cycle you're trying to escape. Each moment of resentment keeps you anchored to the past, dragging your spirit down like a ship weighed by anchors. The ego loves to hold on to blame, convincing you that harboring anger somehow protects your dignity. But the truth is, this attachment only perpetuates suffering. Breaking the cycle of karma requires dissolving the bonds of pride and guilt through the radical act of forgiveness. When you forgive, you don't excuse harmful actions. You simply release the energy that keeps you bound to them. Imagine carrying around a heavy stone in your heart, every grievance adding more weight until you can barely move. Forgiveness is the act of setting down that stone and reclaiming your freedom. It's not about minimizing the harm done or pretending it didn't affect you. Instead, it's about recognizing that holding on to pain only reinforces karmic attachments and prevents you from moving forward. You don't forgive because the other person deserves it. You forgive because you deserve peace. The moment you let go, you're no longer defined by the hurt, but by the strength to rise above it. Breaking the cycle of karma means dismantling the emotional patterns that keep you stuck in samsara. Pride and guilt are two of the biggest culprits, feeding off the illusion that you're personally responsible for every outcome. Forgiveness cuts through this illusion, allowing you to see that life itself played out through you and the other person involved. It doesn't mean ignoring accountability, but it does mean releasing the need to hold yourself or others hostage to past mistakes. By doing so, you disrupt the karmic loop that keeps repeating through lifetimes. A powerful practice for cultivating forgiveness is using mantras that remind you of your essence beyond pride and guilt. One effective mantra is, "I am being lived," repeated with intention and focus. Guided meditation also plays a vital role in breaking karmic chains, as it immerses you in a state of acceptance and release. Imagine visualizing the person you resent, seeing them not as an adversary, but as a fellow traveler shaped by their own conditioning and circumstances. This perspective doesn't justify their actions, but transforms your relationship with the pain they caused, giving you the power to move beyond it. When you forgive, you don't just free yourself from past burdens. You open yourself to new possibilities, unshackled by the emotional weight of old wounds. This transformation doesn't happen overnight, but each step towards forgiveness breaks another link in the chain of karma. As you practice forgiveness consistently, you build the strength to face life's challenges without the baggage of resentment. You become resilient, compassionate, and aligned with the flow of existence. By releasing the grip of old narratives, you make room for a new story, one written not from bitterness but from freedom and inner peace. Chapter 9. Mantra and Practice. Mantras are powerful tools for rewiring the mind and breaking the cycle of karmic attachments. They are not just words. They are vibrational frequencies that align your consciousness with deeper truths. One of the most potent mantras for dissolving the illusion of personal doership is, "I am being lived." This simple phrase holds the power to dismantle the ego's grip, reminding you that life itself is moving through you rather than you moving through life. Repeating it consistently shifts your mindset from being the doer to being the vessel through which actions unfold. It's not just a thought. It's a declaration of surrender to the divine flow. To integrate this mantra into your daily life, set an alarm on your phone to go off every few hours. When it rings, pause whatever you're doing and repeat the mantra to yourself with full awareness. Close your eyes if possible. Take a deep breath and feel the weight lifting off your shoulders as you acknowledge that life is guiding you. This practice may feel strange at first, as the ego resists letting go of control. But over time, the repetition will create a groove in your consciousness, allowing you to naturally adopt a mindset of non-doership. It's a gentle yet powerful way to rewire your habitual thought patterns. Incorporate the mantra into meditation sessions as well. Start by sitting comfortably, closing your eyes, and taking a few deep breaths. As your thoughts begin to settle, start repeating, "I am being lived," internally, allowing the words to resonate throughout your body. Let each repetition become softer and more natural, like a wave gently washing over the shore. The goal is not to force concentration, but to relax into the feeling of being carried by life itself. As your practice deepens, you may notice subtle shifts in how you approach daily tasks. Less tension, more presence, and a profound sense of ease. Mantras are not just about repetition. They're about embodying the truth behind the words. To enhance your practice, combine the mantra with physical activities where you tend to feel tension or stress. Whether it's during a workout, a walk, or even cooking, let the phrase, "I am being lived," accompany your movements. This subtle integration ensures that the mantra becomes part of your being, rather than just a fleeting thought. You'll find that this simple practice dissolves the need to control outcomes and anchors you in the effortless flow of action. As the mantra takes root, it becomes more than just a phrase. It transforms into a state of being. You no longer feel like the one pushing against life's currents, but rather flowing naturally within them. The mantra acts as a constant reminder that your identity is not defined by effort or willpower, but by surrender to the divine rhythm. Over time, your actions become more intuitive, less burdened by doubt or fear. The transformation is subtle yet profound, revealing a newfound clarity and an unwavering sense of peace. This practice not only breaks the illusion of personal doership, but also nurtures a deeper connection to the universe, where each moment unfolds without resistance. Chapter 10. Guided Meditation. Guided meditation is a powerful tool to reinforce the understanding that life is living you, not the other way around. It's not about forcing the mind to be still, but rather allowing thoughts and sensations to arise without clinging to them. Imagine sitting comfortably, eyes closed, and taking a deep breath as a gentle voice guides you through the realization that you are being lived. The essence of the practice is surrender, letting go of the need to control your experience and simply allowing life to unfold through you. This approach dissolves the illusion of personal doership and aligns you with the natural flow of existence. One effective guided meditation practice begins with grounding yourself in the present moment. Sit with your spine straight and your hands resting comfortably. As you breathe in, silently repeat the mantra, "I am being lived." As you exhale, feel the weight of your thoughts releasing, sinking into the awareness that life is acting through you. Allow sensations to come and go without judgment. Whether it's tension, calmness, or fleeting worries, let them be as they are. You are not the thinker, but the witness to thoughts flowing like a river. This simple acknowledgement shifts your consciousness from being the doer to being the observer of life's unfolding. As the meditation deepens, visualize yourself as a wave on the ocean, rising, cresting, and falling without resistance. Feel how the ocean's vastness moves you without any effort on your part. This image helps break the rigid sense of individuality and brings a sense of unity with the whole. You are not separate from life. You are an expression of it. Let go of any attempts to direct the experience. Just as a wave cannot separate itself from the sea, you cannot separate yourself from the flow of existence. By immersing yourself in this realization, the illusion of personal doership dissolves naturally. Incorporating guided meditations regularly will deepen your sense of non-doership and cultivate a state of inner peace. You can find pre-recorded sessions that resonate with this philosophy, or even record your own using the mantra, "I am being lived." The key is consistency, allowing the practice to become a natural part of your routine. Over time, you'll notice a reduction in stress and a lightness that comes from no longer feeling solely responsible for every outcome. You'll start to experience life as an effortless unfolding rather than a relentless struggle for control. Guided meditation doesn't just offer temporary relief. It rewires your perception of self and action. As you practice, the line between you and life blurs, revealing a deeper truth. You are not the actor but the stage on which life performs. This understanding leads to a state of profound acceptance, where even challenges are seen as waves in the ocean of experience. You cease fighting against the current and instead embrace the rhythm of existence with grace and humility. Through guided meditation, you cultivate the ability to move through life without resistance, grounded in the awareness that you're being lived, not living by force. Chapter 11. Liberation from Pain and Pleasure. Liberation from the cycle of pain and pleasure is one of the most profound transformations on the spiritual path. We're conditioned to chase pleasure and avoid pain, as if these fleeting sensations define our worth or happiness. Yet, the pursuit itself becomes a trap, binding us to the cycle of samsara. The ego thrives on these opposites, convincing us that we must constantly strive for pleasure while fleeing from discomfort. But true liberation lies not in avoiding one or clinging to the other, but in seeing both as transient waves in the vast ocean of existence. When you stop being ruled by the desire for pleasure and the fear of pain, you discover a deeper, unwavering state of bliss. The paradox of pleasure and pain is that both are inseparable, one giving birth to the other. When you achieve something you've longed for, the pleasure is sweet, but it inevitably fades, leaving a void that fear and longing rush to fill. Similarly, pain feels unbearable in the moment, but when it passes, relief brings a sense of peace. This endless oscillation traps you in duality, never allowing you to rest. Liberation comes when you realize that neither pleasure nor pain is truly yours. They are simply experiences moving through the space of your awareness. You are not the wave. You are the ocean embracing both the crest and the trough. To transcend the grip of pleasure and pain, cultivate equanimity, the capacity to experience both without attachment. One way to practice this is through mindful observation. When you feel pleasure, instead of immersing yourself in its sweetness, notice how it arises and fades. When pain hits, observe it without resisting or labeling it as bad. This practice reveals the impermanence of both sensations, helping you remain steady regardless of external circumstances. Over time, you develop an inner stillness that isn't shattered by life's ups and downs, grounding you in a deeper state of being beyond emotional reactivity. One of the most practical ways to break free from this cycle is to shift your focus from outcome-driven actions to purpose-driven ones. Instead of pursuing goals solely for the pleasure they promise, engage in actions that resonate with your core values and align with your sense of purpose. When your intention shifts from seeking gratification to living authentically, pleasure and pain lose their sway over you. This doesn't mean abandoning ambition or joy, but rather acting from a place of inner fulfillment rather than craving. The result is a balanced existence where pleasure becomes a gift rather than an obsession, and pain becomes a lesson rather than a curse. Freedom from a cycle of pain and pleasure doesn't mean becoming numb or indifferent. It means recognizing that your happiness is not tied to transient experiences, but rooted in the unchanging awareness that observes them. You stop being tossed around by every wave of emotion and instead find calm within the turbulence. This state of non-attachment is not about rejecting joy or avoiding suffering, but embracing both as aspects of the human journey. By doing so, you cultivate a resilience that allows you to navigate life's storms without losing your center. True liberation is not the absence of feeling, but the freedom from being controlled by it. Chapter 12. Self-realization and oneness with life. Self-realization is the ultimate awakening to the truth that you are not separate from life itself. It's the profound recognition that you are not just an individual entity struggling to survive, but the very essence of existence manifesting through form. The wave does not claim independence from the ocean, nor does the dream separate itself from the dreamer. In the same way, your sense of individuality is merely a fleeting expression of a vast, unified consciousness. To realize this oneness is to dissolve the illusion of personal doership and surrender to the effortless unfolding of the universe. This is not just a philosophical idea, but a living experience of unity with all that is. The journey to self-realization often begins with glimpses, fleeting moments of pure presence where the ego's grip loosens. Perhaps it's during meditation, when thoughts settle and a profound stillness emerges. Or maybe it's in nature, where the majesty of the mountains or the endless horizon evokes a sense of timelessness. In these moments, the boundary between you and the world blurs, revealing that you are not an independent actor, but part of a vast, interconnected flow. The challenge lies not in grasping this truth intellectually, but in embodying it through practice and surrender. One of the most effective ways to nurture self-realization is through contemplative practices that question the nature of the self. Sit quietly and ask, who am I beyond my thoughts and actions? Let the inquiry lead you deeper into the awareness that witnesses both thought and silence. The more you explore this space, the clearer it becomes that your identity is not fixed but fluid, not individual but universal. You are not the doer but the force moving through all things. This realization doesn't make you passive. It aligns your actions with the natural harmony of existence, where effort gives way to flow. Living from this place of oneness transforms how you perceive challenges and achievements. Instead of feeling burdened by personal responsibility or inflated by success, you act with grace and humility, knowing that life itself is expressing through you. You become less reactive, more accepting, and deeply rooted in the present moment. Even mundane activities like cooking or cleaning become acts of devotion, as they are no longer tasks to be conquered, but expressions of life moving through you. This shift dissolves the relentless drive to prove yourself, allowing you to act from a place of peace rather than ambition. Ultimately, self-realization is not about abandoning your identity, but seeing through its illusion. It's about understanding that your true nature is both the wave and the ocean, both the dream and the dreamer. You are the force behind the action, not the individual claiming the credit. This awakening is not reserved for saints or sages. It's accessible to anyone willing to look beyond the ego's veil. As you deepen this realization, the world no longer feels like a hostile arena, but a divine play where every role, including yours, is sacred. The sense of separation fades, and you embrace the truth that life is not happening to you. It's happening as you. Conclusion: embrace this truth. Have you ever wondered how much lighter life would feel if you stopped carrying the weight of personal responsibility for every success and failure? Imagine letting go of the endless pressure to control every outcome and finally embracing the truth that life itself is guiding you. The illusion of personal doership has kept you trapped in a cycle of pride, guilt, desire, and fear, constantly battling against the natural flow of existence. But once you realize that you're being lived rather than living by force, a new world opens up. One where peace replaces struggle and purpose flows effortlessly through you. It's time to step out of the shadows of your own expectations and experience the liberation of non-doership. You are not just an individual striving to survive. You are a vessel through which the universe expresses itself. When you finally let go of the need to prove your worth, to manipulate outcomes, or to claim ownership over every thought and action, you'll find that life becomes a harmonious dance rather than a chaotic battle. This is the essence of true freedom, living without resistance and allowing every moment to unfold as it's meant to be. Now that you've unlocked this powerful insight, what will you do differently? Will you keep clinging to the illusion of control, or will you allow yourself to be lived by the divine force that guides all existence? Embrace this truth and watch how your actions become effortless, your thoughts lighter, and your spirit more aligned with the rhythm of life. The power lies not in forcing your will, but in surrendering to the flow of existence, allowing yourself to become one with the universe itself. You've taken the first step. Now it's time to let go completely. If this message resonated with you, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to keep learning and evolving on your journey. Share your thoughts in the comments below. How do you feel about surrendering control and being lived rather than living by force? Let's create a community of truth seekers who dare to question their deepest beliefs and embrace a higher understanding of existence.